Welcome to the Green Building Show, where we investigate green design and building trends throughout Australia.
It's the bane of many inner-city homeowners. A shortage of space which restricts not only the feel, but the functionality of a home. But throughout October, the Green Building Show will be taking this issue head-on. We'll be speaking with 5 interior design experts to help you find out what possibilities there are for the small spaces in your home. To kick off the series, I'll be sitting down with Brett Micken, an interior design expert, who's going to explain how you can get creative with your small spaces and how you can do more with less. I'm here today with Brett Micken. He's the director of Brett Micken Interior Design in Surrey Hills. Thanks for being with us, Brett.
Thank you, Carlos. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. So we're talking today about doing big things with small spaces. So what do you think is, what's the key, what's the most important thing when it comes to designing a small space?
Well, I think you've really got to look at the function of the space first, what you want to use that for. And then I guess with a small space, say we're talking about a living room, you then have to look at like traffic flow. Because if it's a small space and you have to have areas to watch TV, maybe even it's the dining room area as well, you have to make sure you can have all these things within this space, but still be able to, get back and forward, get to the front door.
Great. And do you think, in your opinion, is designing for a small space strictly challenge, or do you think there is some opportunity there that perhaps larger spaces don't have?
I think there's definitely opportunity. I think you have to be a little smarter. With a small space, you don't want a lot of visual noise, so you don't want a lot of clutter. So you have to be very clever about things like storage. And so there's a lot of tricks you can do, like if you do built-in storage, even if you make it disguise it into the wall. So say you're doing a dining space, rather than having chairs all the way around, perhaps you put a banquette, against one wall, which can also be storage, can be hidden, and it means the table can sit much closer to the banquette.
So Brett, when it comes to storage, what are the key fundamentals? So lose any standalone storage, it has to be built-in?
Well, I think built-ins help. I think if you've got a small space, you want things to be really visually quiet again, so that if you have built-in storage that sort of disguises into the wall, maybe it's painted the same as the wall, then that's going to give you more room for the prominent pieces. I think you've got to make sure that there's not a lot of loud pieces. So if all the functional areas are disguised, then you can have like a really beautiful dining table, you don't see the seating, you can have a kitchen that sort of may even blend into the room, but it allows the few expensive pieces, I guess, the few prominent pieces to stand out and everything else just to work seamlessly.
Great. Okay, and when you first walk into a space, what's the first thing mentally that goes through your head that needs to be done? Is it always automatically a structural change, or do you think there's some spaces where structural change is not even necessary and it's literally just a refurbishment?
Well, I think 90% of the time, the first thing you have to do is remove half the stuff that's in there. Right. So many people over-design, and you really have to simplify it and strip the space back to its raw structure to see. Sometimes that involves structural changes, sometimes it doesn't. And I think if there's something architecturally that's beautiful, you want that to stand out. But some people may look at that first, like I'm doing a house that's a very ornate Federation house at the moment. It was built about 1910, really ornate glass windows and everything like this, cornices, molded ceilings, and the client is an absolute minimalist.
Wow.
Yeah, doesn't like frills or anything like that. So it's like, how do you make that work? So what you have to do is strip that right back to its bare bones, so that each of these features are like art. So if everything else is neutral, these beautiful windows become like a painting rather than layers and layers of heavy, ornate pieces. And then you match that with furniture which is as intricate, or other art that's as intricate, so it sort of all blends and no longer becomes old.
Fantastic. Yeah. So what's some key advice you can give us for decluttering your space?
Well, you sort of have to think about how you actually live. Like, for some reason, a lot of my clients have lots of children, so I sort of specialize in that. So if you have lots of children, you have lots of clutter. So you have to provide areas to put this away. You can't pretend, I have 4 children, but I'm a minimalist, because you're not. You know, so you need to either designate areas where they can put their stuff, or don't give them large open spaces. You know, don't give them giant kitchen islands where everybody's going to drop everything. You know, make it so there's always somewhere to put everything.
Great.
Yeah.
And so and does decluttering, does that term in your mind, does that mean, when you say strip everything, does that mean getting everything out and then being very selective of the things you put in, or is it picking out some monstrosities and just getting rid of them completely?
Well, I like to respect the history of the architecture. So if something's original there, even if it's really maybe not the greatest taste, I think you should make it a feature. I don't like to strip it out just for the fact that it doesn't feel right with what you're going. So often if like you have very intricate paneling or something like that, but it is original, if you just paint it neutral or even paint it dark, you know, because then it recedes into the space and then it becomes this beautiful textured backdrop rather than, again, layers of ornamentation. So it really depends on the space, I guess.
Okay, great. Yeah. And what impact do you think decluttering can have on a small space? Like how much can you transform a space just by rearranging the items, or you know, reducing the number of items you have in there?
Well, I think that goes also to one of the benefits of a small space, which is you don't need a lot of great pieces to make a big impact. Like if you have a really huge room, you know, you can fill it with tons of furniture and that would cost you a lot of money. If you have a small space and you have disguised storage and things like banquettes and hidden kitchens, stuff like that, then you need a few fabulous chairs, one amazing table. You know, you don't need a lot. And so these things can really pop out and sort of be grand without having to do a lot there. So I think, yeah.
So do you think it's better to have fewer pieces of heavyweight furniture, or a little bit more pieces of, you know, lighter weight type furniture?
Well, I think heavyweight is not a good idea in a small space. I think even though you want comfortable and functional furniture, often in a small space you want it to feel larger. So say you have a sofa, even if you want it like a modern deep sofa, have it on legs so it's visually light, so it doesn't take up a lot of visual space, it doesn't feel heavy and take over the, you know, the room. And even with like side chairs or something, do some cool open frame. It can still be upholstered and comfortable, but you know, keep it light.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, and what's your favourite, you know, what's your personal favourite thing to do to transform a small space?
Well, I love colour, and colour, especially if you're on a budget, it's the simplest way of transforming a space. Sometimes colour can mean neutral colour. It doesn't mean it has to be a bright colour, but darker colours are great because they make a huge impact, and they also again recede, and so they make the things you put in there become very important, and they also disguise a lot of faults. Yeah, so I think.
Okay, so I guess can you give us a couple of key principles to colour in a small space?
Yeah, often I do apartments as well as houses. So when you have an apartment, more than often in Sydney, it's very small. You know, sometimes it's even like 3 by 3. So I think somebody's first reaction would be, let's paint it light so it feels bigger. But I think this is a space you're going to sleep. So cocoon yourself in a beautiful colour. Remember I did one bedroom and it's like teal. So the whole thing is teal, and there's a chrome bed that sits in the middle, so that really pops out. You know, you have wall lights, that gives you more space, so you don't have to take up any space on the side table, and it just creates like a little hotel suite.
Fantastic. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. All right, we're nearly finished, Brett, but I just wanted you to take me through a standard small home. We'll go through the key spaces, dealing with a small living space, a small kitchen, a small bathroom and a small bedroom.
Okay.
And if you could just give me one point that you think is a good starting point for a homeowner to make the most out of that space. So what would you do as a first point of call in a living space?
Well, in a living space, again, you've got to really think about what the function of that is going to be. and how that traffic flow is going to work, you really have to look at scale. That's the most important thing in a small space, that the furniture is to scale. Large pieces are going to dwarf it, so comfortable but scale.
Perfect. So. All right, great. So living space, small furniture to scale.
Appropriate scale.
Appropriate scale. Great. Okay. And what about a kitchen?
Kitchen. If it is a small space, especially if it's connected to a living space, which a lot of people like to live that way now, it can really take over a space if it's loud. So often just do elements. Maybe the island is something different with like a stone top or something like that, but then the rest of the kitchen recedes into the walls. Even do integrated fridges, integrated dishwashers, appliances like that. So again, it's quiet. It's just part of the architecture rather than in that space.
Okay, so quiet, integrated appliances.
Yep.
Fantastic. And what about a bedroom?
Bedroom, well, again, you can wrap it in colour, which is really great like that. I think you can really take your cues from like your favourite hotel rooms. I think just think about what you're going to be doing in here, what it needs to be able to do. You know, great television, great colour, comfortable bed. It's all about sheets and mattress in a bedroom.
Great. All right, and finally, bathroom.
Well, bathroom's a tricky one because functionally there's a certain number of things you have to get in here. So I think if it's a small bathroom, it has to have shower and bath and things like that. Just keep it really simple. Maybe do the impact on the floor so it's not bland, you know. I don't believe in doing everything beige, you know, because it's going to sell better. Do some impact, but if the floor's patterned, maybe everything else is white. And then glass, you know, simple glass shower screens. If you don't have to do a door, it's great. It just helps with the traffic flow. Integrated cisterns in the wall, again, helps expand that. Integrated vanities in the wall with a mirror. And then even mirrored walls, I mean, it helps expand. But then if you have like a powder room, which is another small bathroom, that's really a place where you can have a lot of fun. Because no one has to spend a lot of time there. This is guests or whatever, so do something really wild. You know, do a fabulous wallpaper, some cool light. That's where you can really make a statement because, you know, and say, here, welcome, you know.
Fantastic. All right, that's great, Brett. Just a bit of a wrap-up comment.
Yep.
You know, so let's say there's a homeowner out there who's really panicking because they think that their living space or their space in general is just so small, and they feel that there's nothing they can do about it. What can you say to set their mind at ease?
Well, I think you can start by thinking it's been done so many times before. I mean, look all over Europe, those tiny little apartments. Look at fabulous hotel suites. When you go to a hotel suite, it's fully contained, it's all there. So think about that. Small spaces can be fabulous. And the best thing about it is you don't need big budgets for it because you don't need as many pieces. You can even do expensive flooring, but you don't need a lot of it, you know, so you can save money there. So, yeah.
Fantastic.
That's it. I don't know how to end that.
We can thank you for your time.
Thank you.